What's up, everybody? Welcome to
Our Love, Our Journey
podcast and podcast. And today we got a very special episode, and this is another video episode. So those that are watching on YouTube, welcome, and those who are listening on podcast, welcome. We're excited to have you.
Yeah.
So we have a very amazing special guest that we just got to know for probably 45 minutes. We could talk forever, I'm sure. But let's welcome Mrs. Lauren. And what's your last name, Lauren, if you want to throw that out there? If not, don't, actually.
I don't even know anymore. Just kidding. It's the same as known, but I got married 2 weeks ago and I'm in the process of changing it. But
congrats.
It stands for now because any social media or anything else is still that way.
Well, congratulations again,
So excited for you. That's
Team
awesome.
love.
Yeah.
Because we just got engaged a few
Aw.
months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
So, so fun. Cool. Well, congratulations. And so Lauren, guys, she's a beast. So we're talking and she has all our same mindset. You guys that follow us know that we are all about fitness, all about entrepreneurship, all about personal development, all about financial freedom, all about all that stuff, right? And so she, which is so dope. So she's actually extremely successful in multi-level marketing, right? And so if I say that right, so she's made 7 figures in that area, which is amazing.
Yeah.
How many people do that make that, right? So do you want to give about a 1-minute description on who you are and what you do, Lauren?
Sure, and thank you for that. It's so fun to be on here. I love when the universe just brings great people together. But my background is in health and wellness. I've been in the industry for nearly 2 decades. I retired myself from exchanging time for money as a personal trainer and clinical nutritionist. I loved helping people. I did not love working for a paycheck and just, depended on myself showing up or someone else showing up. And after years and years and years and years of saying no to the network marketing industry, I finally found a company that I aligned with their quality products, with their core values, with the culture, and thought, what do I have to lose? I never really thought all of this would come to fruition, but I have been a top earner with them. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the lives we've been able to impact physically and financially, and most of all, the platform for me to chase after other dreams and go after other endeavors in my life. So my second business is a motivational speaker. I've published 2 books, and that is because I had more time that I was able to kind of follow through with other dreams. So I'm excited to be here. Totally love all of those keywords: the time freedom, the financial freedom, the entrepreneur, the mindset, the growth. We could talk all day.
100%. Okay, so one thing that you said already we can start here, is trading time for money. That's a big thing. And that's something that I'm really realizing, especially I think as we all get older, we start to shift our thinking a little bit this way. And I think about how much you can always get more money, but you can't get more time, right? And so what are some ways that you found, I don't know if it's all in one area or multiple, but what are some ways that you found to, just some general principles about how to stop trading time for money?
So I think the first thing is having to just accept that there's another way out there. And what I mean is all of our lives, we've been taught 2 + 2 = 4, 2 + 2 = 4. Go to school, go to grad school, work for 40 years, retire on fixed income. It's so ingrained in us that someday when someone's 2 + 2 = 5, you're no, that you have to just understand and accept that there is such a thing as residual income. There is such a thing as passive income. And there is a way to leverage, your time to increase more money. But I think outside of being open to it, first of all, then falling in love with a business model that works for you. So some people have had success in real estate, some people have had success in network marketing, some people have had success in scalable online businesses, but then being able to figure out what kind of works with you. And the third is just the consistency. They're just, as we were chatting a couple minutes ago, there's no magic pill to being healthy and fit, right? You're talking to 3 fitness professionals. There is still no magic pill.
Still none.
I'm waiting for one though.
Business model, right? There's not, hey, like if I do this for a year, I'm set free for the rest of my life. Like all three of us are still hustling and we're still grinding because we're hungry and we're motivated. But even though we might design our days, or we don't have to worry about not making money for a couple days if we don't like clock into a job, and it's totally different, like consistency is so important.
Yeah, so good. Okay, so let's move this to relationship talk, because so for me and Alex, like where our income is, because we invest in like ourselves and our business for one, and then stocks, and then we're moving to real estate now as well. So, but we're curious to the come up that you've had, right, to get to your 7 figures and all that. Were you in a relationship that whole time, or did that come, like, were you already going before you met your spouse? How did that work?
Oh my gosh, I am actually dying because I've never been asked this. Like on the interviews, like no one has asked that. And I talk about it on my team calls. But right before I joined my network marketing company, I went through a terrible breakup. And that was a pivotal point in my life, because as I entered into a world that was about personal growth and personal development, and I did so much self-love and so much just truly the growth. And for people that understand, like, oh, I've done therapy, I've done counseling, that is not synonymous with personal growth, you know, and you actually break through your limiting beliefs. It was like really transforming into this person. So when I got out of this toxic relationship, actually for the first like 4 to 5 years of my success with the network marketing company, I was on my own. And partially because I thought, I'm not getting into another long-term relationship until I'm okay with myself, where someone can encourage me, someone can support me, like we get better together, but not where like I'm dependent on them, or where I'm holding that person accountable for my voids. So if you don't do that, like people in relationships that are unhealthy, they're mad at that person and they can't even explain why they're mad at them, because they want that person to be able to feel something that's the emptiness that only they can do themselves.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're so going.
So I was not ready, you know, and I had to go through a lot. And then when I was dating, I was too much for people. And I don't mean to say that like, ooh, I'm a 10 and like, you know, I wasn't like, you know, these guys weren't hot enough. That's not what I'm saying. Like I was too bold in the world. I was too brave in the way I was challenging people to think. I was too loud on my social media of like excitement and things that people were like, you know, intimidated a little bit by it. And I was like, that's okay. These are my dreams. These are my goals. And the right person is going to come alongside and celebrate that and not be intimidated by it, not be worried that I was working too much or whatnot. So through working with a woman, she's actually the impetus for me writing my second book, was a life coach. I did a lot of work with the Enneagram. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Yes.
Oh, don't even get us started on that kind of stuff. we're like so in that world, like, and we're in some now objective personality where it's like scientific now, like so it's going deeper. It's amazing, but we'll talk about that another time.
You would love it.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm the 8 and I'm the challenger, right? And all these things, and I can't be vulnerable and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And when I like met my person, it's like everything that you hear that's cliche, that it's when you least expect, it's not going to appear the way you think it's going to be, but like you're going to know. And that person has never held me back, only encouraged me, only edified me, only supported me. And it's just so different. But you have to work with yourself to find the right person.
Yeah. Man, I'm so glad you brought that up. By the way, I'm a type 7, so we're really close. So she's a 6, so 876. But
so that's the positive and the loyalist. Is that what you guys are?
Yeah, so I think I'm the entertainer. So, and then she's the loyalist. But I'm a 7 with the 6 wings. She's a 6 with the 7 wings. So we're super similar. Yeah. All of our energies are actually like, we have this intensity about us.
Yeah, I'm like, if you are not for intense energy, do not listen to this podcast.
Yeah, we're just like, even with our clients, we're like 2 of our big energies. If they're introverts, they're like, ooh.
They were like, we had one the other day and she was just like, oh, sorry, too much.
I know, we're a lot. But no, okay, so one thing that you said that so resonated, we just talked about this. So one thing that I've noticed is your cup needs to be full first.
Totally.
So what happens was, I noticed blame is the death of relationships, okay? Like you cannot blame freaking at all, anything. You gotta take 100, not 99, 120% of blame, right? To give your relationship a fair shot, in my opinion, right? And that's totally my subjective opinion. But I would say, like, one thing I noticed was I would start nitpicking and blaming her and getting mad at her randomly at times. And I'm like, what am I doing? Where's that coming from? And then I realized what it was is because if I'm not careful, I can be somewhat, I don't know if like needy is the right word, but like I can depend on her to fill me up when I'm unconsciously not full. And so then I start nitpicking and looking for things, and then unconsciously it's coming out. I'm like, what am I doing? And so then my cue now is to go off on my own, spend some me time, get my cup full. Then when I come back every time, then it's all a bonus now. I don't care if she gives me attention or not. Like I get to the point where I'm just like, well, it's a bonus if she does, but if not, I'm cool. And that made me realize how important it is to have your cup full and have practices for when, because your cup will drain a little bit. So it's like have practices to how to refill that cup. So what I do to refill that cup is I go on my walk, I listen to my podcast, my personal development stuff. Do you have something that you do to get your cup full when you're feeling like you're trying to get it full through your partner, if you ever go do that?
Of course. And I just want to applaud you for even having that recognition, you know, like so many men, and I don't want to be stereotypical, right? But just like to have like that intuition of like, oh my gosh, if I'm nitpicking at my fiance, like maybe there's something inside of me that's not right, that you're projecting onto somebody else like that. Just awareness. Like, this is such a small percentage of people. And I hope anybody listening to this is like, oh my gosh, I do that. And heard the saying, like even with your friendships or your family, it doesn't even have to be a significant other, that you usually, the things that you see in someone that you're not a fan of or annoying you are really a reflection of the things you don't like about yourself.
The mirror. You
realize that like, oh, I'm mad that person's late and I'm late all the time, or you know what things are that kind of get us annoyed. But I think for me, fitness is my jam. It's been for a long time. One of the things I didn't even tell you guys in our pre-little chat, but I had a huge history with drugs and alcohol when I started really young and first got sober. I mean, really young. I stopped doing drugs when I was 17. That gives you an insight of how young I was when I started. But that's where I found my love for fitness. So because of the increase in serotonin and dopamine and, you know, just that will always be my go-to. I have multiple signs in my house that say you're one workout away from a good mood. So sometimes I just I'm like, I'm going for a run and I'll figure it out, you know, and sometimes I'm a big communicator. I'll talk to people, definitely personal growth, definitely that. But I think again, back to that journey that I did with the Enneagram, usually if I'm frustrated, it's because I'm coming from a place of self-protection, because I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be violated. Anger is a powerful emotion that if I can like peel back the layers, be like, okay, I'm actually probably afraid to get hurt, or I'm like a little scared, or it can be vulnerable. Like the communication is so much easier because you're coming from a place of safety and not a place of judgment.
Right. Great insight. And so that's one thing that we found is because like we're using the human needs. So there's like 4 human needs, but Tony Robbins has like the 6 human needs. So it's the needs without the growth and contribution. So there's the 4 human needs, and we all are driven by these. These aren't wants or desires, guys. We're getting them fulfilled right now, whether it's in a healthy way or unhealthy way. And so one thing we've learned to kind of get, because that's such great awareness that you have. And one thing that's helped us is to realize both of our top need is love and connection.
And this is in like the past week. We
just like, it just clicked. We're just like, oh my God. So that's why we like spending 24/7 together. You know, like makes sense. And then we realized, so we started figuring out what are the things that really enhance that love and connection, and what are things that, when are we noticing that we're not feeling connected? Because whenever we start acting out, we're not feeling that connection in some way. And then we're blaming each other unconsciously for not giving us that feeling of connection without, right? So my point is I think if you can figure out your human needs, then that can give you a little bit of a map, you know? And so, and I know I'm rambling a little bit, but one other thing I noticed is when I catch myself judging people, that is the greatest gift of self-awareness for me as well. Because whenever I'm judging someone for anything, I can do this and I've either done it or I do it and I'm mad at myself for doing it, like you were saying. And so that's another way that you can start getting that kind of, if you struggle with self-awareness, like we're the types that we do struggle with self-awareness.
It's like our lowest.
It's hard for us to see self, but we can see what everyone else is doing wrong.
And tell you,
and tell you
you're
about
doing
it.
Wrong.
So I think of it as paying attention to your unconscious thoughts of how you're judging others will help you really start to get to your core of your truth. It's just being courageous enough to accept that, like, hey, I actually do get a kick out of when people get hurt. You know, something that uncomfortable, right? Like, you got to get honest with that, because once you get honest, now you got options.
And you can change it. It doesn't mean that that's just who you are.
That's what I mean. You got options. You just got to get to the truth.
Like,
yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with all that stuff completely. And I'll tell you just a side story, but for years, you know, and I yo-yoed when I competed and I did all these different diets, that I remember I would always go in, like, even as an instructor, I would go to teach my body pump class and be looking at, like, women in there, like, why is she wearing that? Or like, oh, this and that.
Right.
I was like, the exact same
I don't want to do that. Like, I'm here to empower people. I'm like, why does that even happen? And then through so much growth, I will never forget this. I was in a core power class one day, and I remember walking out and thinking, I don't have a clue what anybody else was wearing, because I was so focused. I wasn't, like, assessing the room, comparing myself, and it's so liberating. But different where you have all these things that are so similar. I just want to, like, chime in that, you know, Ryan and I are actually very different, and I love that, because I'm always like, I don't want to date myself. Way. And you know, similarly to the Tony Robbins needs, if you've done, like, the love language, you know, test, and it's all physical touch, and, like, that is not necessarily mine. He's a lot of times, you know, quality time, and I'm words of affirmation. So I'm like, put a note on my card that I'm a badass and I can go all day. And I'm like, he's good. He loves me. I can go, like, do what I want to do. Where he's like, are you going to come home and hold my hand and talk to me for a while, you know? Learn how to grow it together, and where you're like, if we're not together 24/7, what's missing? Like, through quarantine, you know, when we were really shelter at home in April, I'm like, I would like to be able to miss him again. Like, I kind of
totally.
Oh, is he home yet? I think it's okay too if you're not, like, always on the same page, and be able to, like, those opposites attract, and you know, be able to enjoy those things with your spouse, but then also have, like, the independence away from it. So I love what you guys have, but I think it's okay even if you're, like, totally different. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay. So we've done a lot of research on this. It seems like what the data shows is that there's a ratio. Okay, so everyone's like 7:30 usually. So the more similar you are, the more easy flowing connection, more buddy you are, and then the more opposite you are, the more this beautiful attraction, like this fire passion attraction, right? And so we have the 7:30 ratio of buddy, 70%, and then 30% opposite, where we have this spark and this attraction more. And that we like that. That works for us, right? We've been with opposites for it, and it could be because of our needs, right? It works for our needs. We like the consistency. We like the smoothness. We don't need the ups and downs. Like, we're good on that. But other people, like I have identical twin brother, fun fact, and his wife is similar to her actually, and they're on the opposite spectrum. And so they have this beautiful relationship where they have a lot more firepower, and they have a lot more of that desired space and independence and stuff. We just don't get tired of being around each other really, but of course you got to balance it. You can't always do
like
that.
When he goes on his walk.
Like I like to have my few hours every day. But yeah, so it's the dynamic between what works good for you. What do you prefer, guys? Do you prefer the buddy a little bit more, or do you prefer the sparky-sparky? So they both are great. It just depends on what you desire.
Not one is right or wrong.
Sparky, that's so funny.
Would you agree with that?
I don't know about this sparky. I think I call that something else right now, but that's hilarious.
I was gonna ask you, do you agree with that? In your relationship, you guys have a great spark and attraction.
Like,
are you guys passion for each other? Would you say that aligns with that theory, that philosophy?
Oh my gosh, for sure. But actually, like, I don't know what you're talking about. Now I want to look it up, but both. Like, I mean, when you think that you find your person, like, that is my best friend. I don't want to do things without him. I'm never annoyed with him. I'm never like I need to have, like, time away. But I also am a very independent person.
Which is amazing. Yes.
And, like, to have those things, like, if I go, like, I mean, I haven't obviously because of COVID since March, but I was traveling once or twice a month And even if I was only gone a night or 2 nights, like I couldn't wait to get home, you know? I'm like, oh, I was gone for 40 hours, you know? Like, I honestly have both, but you know, with family or just like day-to-day living. And like Ryan always jokes because I used to tell him, I'm like, just hope I don't get sick of you, because I really don't love to be around people all the time.
Yes,
and I hang out with girlfriends, like by the end of the weekend, I'm like, okay, like I'll see you in a couple months. Like I'm so
yes.
And so we'll joke still. He's like, are you getting sick of me yet? And I'm like, nope.
It's so funny. It's so funny because I get sick of other people really easy. I'm like, get away from me. But I never get sick of him. I'm just like, more time.
Well, and we'll see, guys, right? Like, so we've been together a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, if things change, we're very open and honest in that sense. We can totally, we'll tell each other and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Like, we know how to move in our relationship, because I think just like anything else, it's everything's evolving, moving, nothing's staying still. So we who knows how we're going to change in the future, but we're very open, and we have enough self-independence where we're okay. But as of now, this is a dynamic that works really good for us, that we
love
enjoy.
it. Yeah.
So I'll let her know. She won't have to worry about me telling her.
I never have to wonder what he's doing.
Yeah, because I'm very blunt and direct in that way. I'll tell you, I'm like, get away, I need space.
I'm big too. That's so good. Communication's so important.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like I'll tell him like I just need like an hour, or like, you know, I'm like I just need a minute for myself.
So speaking of communication, did you guys have a hard time? So I guess my two-part question is, did you guys have a hard time finding your communication groove? Are you still finding it? Because communication is probably the hardest part in every relationship.
Yeah.
I don't think there would be a fight ever without understanding and communication on some level.
Right.
And then my second question is, if so, what are some tips and tricks you guys found that you can share with others to help them on their relationship journeys?
Oh, those are such good questions. And I hope that this could be helpful for just even anybody listening, because I feel like my relationships have improved from so many other, you know, just personal development coaches that I've worked with. But the number one difference about Ryan in a positive way that stood out to me compared to other people I dated was we could communicate. So we will say from our very first date, the two things that were established that it was like, this was my person, was trust and communication. Like we have never been dishonest to each other, even to a fault. We'll say we're honest to a fault. Like I'm like, you're not really gonna wear that right now, you know? Really serious things.
Like, dude, you smell like a foot.
Like, brush your teeth, right? But and that's real. But I mean, the trust has always been there and the communication. But the thing for Ryan that has helped me communicate. So this is back to the 8. For people that don't know the Enneagram. Yeah. It's a very, very powerful personality. Like we're called the challenger. Like we can't handle conflict. You know, if anything is off, like people are telling you 99% of the truth. We feel the 1%. It's like, what part is not being told in this story? Like very intuitively. And our trigger to a more unhealthy expression is if you feel like you're going to be violated or manipulated. And often with communication for the 8, it's a lot of defensiveness and protectiveness. And you can be very ruthless or defensive because you're so subconsciously concerned about protecting yourself. You're not really hearing it. Where the key to be more healthy is to be vulnerable, right? And to listen and just let that guard down and trust, like this is safe and people are not trying to hurt me. And
what type is he, really quick? Do you know?
He's a 3. He's the achiever.
I figured he was a 3. I just guessed that. I don't know. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
okay,
he's
sorry.
A 3 wing 1, which is like the peacekeeper, and I'm an 8 wing 6 or wing 2, which is the helper, the lover. You know. So it's really been fascinating. Our life coach did some work with us. Was actually our officiant at the wedding too, but. With Ryan, because he's such a secure person, like he could see what was happening, and like very early on was like, are you mad at me or are you just mad? And I'm like, I don't know, you know.
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I like that question.
I love that.
It was instilled that day of like working through it. I'm just frustrated. Like he's someone that can get my guard down. If I'm frustrated with work or I'm frustrated with someone in my family or friends, it's just like on Team Lauren that I don't have to worry about his advice, like not having my best interest at heart, even if it's not what I want to hear, right? Even if he's challenging me or something, like he's doing this because he cares. But I also, much like you guys just said, the highs and the lows, every other relationship I was in previous to this, there was that fear of it ending. right? There was I do the wrong thing, they're out the door, this isn't going to work, and that scarcity mindset, because it was unhealthy, it was toxic. Even through our difficulties, I've never had to be like, oh, he's out of here. We don't have these highs and the lows, right? We don't addiction that when the challenges come up, we will be fine. And so there is this trust and respect to go through it. And the other way too, like if he comes to me and is like, hey, I'm not a fan of this, or these things are bothering me, or these things hurt my feelings. Like, I love him so much that there's more focus on like, oh my gosh, I want to make sure that he doesn't feel that way before I'm like, why would you think I would ever try to hurt him? Or, it's just
so I think really quick, I think that goes back to the philosophy. Tony Robbins has philosophy where a relationship's not a place to get, it's a place to give. And so that's when you start putting the other person above your emotions in the moment, because we all get this selfishness with our emotions. When we're upset in a relationship, then we're probably being extremely selfish and not realizing
you're not getting something, or you're not doing
it's all about
you
in that moment. Right. And then the blame. I have a theory that says if you're saying should or blame, then you're in a ton of pain, right? So or if you're in pain, you're saying should or you're blame.
Yep.
So that's it. Like, so you can always find why you're in pain to those two things. Take ownership. Don't take the blame, but take the ownership. Right. And then, man, you'll get free from that right away. So hopefully that helps.
Those nuggets are so good. And I think just for your listeners, like, what advice? I would just say be true. Be truthful. Truthful to yourself, truthful to your feelings, like just truthful.
Yes.
Because the number one reason communication, in my opinion, falls is we're self-protecting or we're guarding or something that you're just not being truthful, and it's always misconstrued.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. Like, it's like, I think pain in general comes from resisting reality on some level. And so what you said was like being true to like yourself, being true to your emotions, being true to reality. You can always work with reality, guys. You can't work with your fake story in your head that you can't do anything with it. It's not going to get you anywhere. Yeah. And it's going to hurt to make you feel better in the short term, but you're going to pay for it so bad in the long term. You always have to pay your debt. You got to pay the piper. Yeah. So, okay, cool. So I have a question. So, we have a lot of different tools. We've been in the personal development obsessed game for a long time, and we're really into human behavior in general. Okay, so
we talk about it with like reality TV.
Yeah,
like, oh, they're doing this.
We'll watch reality TV, and then we're like, oh, they're using this function, and this person's intuitive, this person's sensory dominant, so that's why they're talking over each other, past each other. Like, we're like super got all this stuff to science almost, right?
It's fun.
So we have a lot of different tools though that give us more social awareness as well as self-awareness. Okay, I think we are born with more social awareness, but we lack in the self-awareness. Yeah. And I think everybody's gonna be stronger in one, right? So my question is what tools have you found that is really helpful for your relationship? So I think before you answer, we use like love languages is big. Yeah. I realized hers is acts of service, which you guys heard me say on other podcasts. And to my brain is like, what? That is not giving me love because you're doing the dishes. Like, I don't get it. And so then it makes sense. Like, whatever your partner is giving you is probably what they want to receive, because we all think everybody thinks the way we think, right? And so I'm always giving her touch. And because I'm thinking that that's what I would want to show that I'm loved, and then she doesn't really respond that much to it. So keep in mind, whatever your partner's giving to you, that's probably what you should give them. Yeah, right. That's been a big one. Yeah. So love languages, Enneagram, any type of things like that, the Myers-Briggs. But I would say, guys, the dominant one, the one that can actually change your life, it's objective personality. Because this isn't just like someone's opinion. Everyone thinks there's certain things, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm this," and
it's usually actually the opposite.
That's what we found. Over 90% of the time, whatever type you think you are in like the Myers-Briggs land, say you think you're an ENFJ, you're probably a
ISFP.
Yeah, right. Complete opposite. Yeah. I thought I was an ESFP. I'm actually an INTJ. Okay.
I did know I was.
It's very weird. Yeah. She's like, I knew. So keep that in mind, guys. Don't get butthurt. It's going to be devastating because we all want to be our opposite, and it's going to hurt your feelings. But if you can be honest with it, you can really work with freaking reality. Some people actually have breakdowns from it. Like, it gets hard. But
we almost did.
My point is, with objective personality, there's 512 types. I know it sounds like a lot. Trust me, it's not like that. It's broken in sections. It's simple. but everyone should be able to see from different countries, from everywhere. They should all get to the same and say they're this exact type out of 512. Okay, so that tool has been helpful for us. And then any other tools that we use for. So anyway, so what are some tools that you guys use, or have you been conscious of tools that you guys are using to get awareness, to be able to communicate better with each other, and to get that self-awareness to know what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. I love listening to you guys and learning some of the things you're doing. I have to introduce you to my life coach after this.
Cool.
Before she sits down with you individually or with a couple, the 3 tests that she has you do, that she creates a 1 sheet out of, like for your unique personality, but it's Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, and Strengths Finders.
Oh.
And
okay, yep, I've done
so whether she's working with you like individually or working, you know, as a couple, of kind of what that is. And that was such an awakening for me years ago when I understood all of that. Interestingly, the Myers-Briggs one doesn't land so powerfully on me. Like, that depends on the situations and where, like, like, for me. So we use a lot more of that. And just because I know you guys have such a focus on relationships here, but Ryan had done mostly his personality testing in the corporate America world. So he's worked, you know, over 20 years in the corporate world where they did DISC or they did Strength Finders and things that have to do with how executives work together. Mm-hmm. So when we started talking about as a relationship, to be honest, I think he thought I was speaking a foreign language. Like it was like, like we have fun, like what, you know, and over a few years we've been together now and how important that is and actually how we've grown to be able to talk about things like that. I would not necessarily say there's one, but there is that awareness. It's things we're talking about. Like, am I really upset? Am I projecting it on you? Did you really do something or this and that? But the verbiage, the communication, the vocabulary, whatever comes from our life coach. And it's all with the Enneagram, that it's like literally putting on a lens. Like, okay, I have my unhealthy expression on. This is what's happening. And to be able to go through that. And it's not necessarily that that's conscious. Like, I don't really come out with different glasses on. I'm like, I'm acting like a 4, you know, or like you're acting like, I mean, it's not that, but it's just to be aware of those triggers, to be aware of that a lot of the frustration that comes up sometimes is not really that person or what it is, to be able to go through that you always have to ultimately know that this person's not hurting me. And I think that is what so many relationships struggle with, is because that person is hurting you, and people stay in terrible relationships thinking you're going to change that person, you're going to fix them, and you're not. And when you're with the right person, they're never going to hurt you. And I will just say, because I grew up in an abusive home, like then I dated abusive men, you know, and not just physically, but mostly emotionally. And I had this tolerance, and I was like, kind of like, well, I've been through worse pain. Like I've been through more hurt. So like, I was just kind of used to it. That was the addictive cycle I had. I thought that's how it was supposed to be. And it was like, I've been through worse. This is how people show love. And it wasn't until some of the growth and some of the personal development, and someone said to me, and I will never forget this, they were like, Lauren, someone that loves you will never hurt you. And so when you cannot have the conversations like we're all having right now, to be able to step back and be like, okay, I was a little defensive. Like, am I really mad at you? And there's something unhappy with me, but at the core, to know that you're on the same page, that's not the relationship to be in, and you're never going to fix that. There's either work you have to do, or that person has to do the work. But the toxicity and the explosions that come, you know, when people are pointing the fingers, the shame, the blame, the fights, the communication, the attacking, like no test is gonna fix that. You know what I mean? Like that is like
so good.
That has to be worked through.
So pretty much what you're saying is like everything goes here. Like it all comes back. All roads lead back to you. It's like you're supposed to go more internal instead of external, because the problem is it's going to be internal because you have a problem with something.
Or just to accept that, like, there's nothing wrong with you just because you've been a bad picker, right? So there's probably people listening to this right now that are like, oh, I'm dating someone that gaslights me on a regular basis, you know? And if you are like, I am kind and I'm loving, and this person doesn't own up to that, and you're in this cycle of them hurting you, apologizing, hurting you, like that relationship is never going to have the purity and the trust and the safety that we all are experiencing. And that's because that person has to do that work, you know? And I think people stay in these, they're like, what's wrong with me? Or how do I fix it? And the person that's going to gaslight their significant other, that's not the relationship to be in. And not that I'm telling everyone to go break up with them. I've just been in that been in a healthy one that it's so much more than just these tests, right? And those work in a relationship that both people are invested, that both people believe in that, both people care about it. And I've been in them where it's one-sided and you're trying to do something like, no, like I'm not there about it, in my opinion, you know, like
that's what we consistently wonder.
Is age like
right.
Well, I think one of the things that you said that I think you said was like someone where both people are willing to look at their own crap. You know what I mean?
That's big.
Like not be like, no. And again, it goes back to the blaming.
Not me,
like
you.
That. But it's like someone that's willing to be like you said, like, oh my gosh, I'm being defensive right now.
Yeah.
Like, what is actually going on here? Rather than being like, because like I've struggled with defensiveness as well. So it's like, no. And then it's actually, wait, okay, slow down. Yes.
She's got good at it though. She's trained herself. Her automatic response is to go into survival instinct. And so what happens is her cognitive part of her brain like shuts down. And then she just starts speaking survival language. It's interesting. She starts talking as if like she's fiending for her life. And it's very interesting to see. So I'm like, oh, it's survival brain kicking in. Like, don't take it personal. She can't hear you right now.
And
she
then
cannot
to just
hear
be
you.
like, no, okay.
And just
calm
love
down. And then like you said, he's trying to help me. It's not like he's trying to hurt me.
But it's hard. And there's a trigger. There's something in your past that allows the emotions to come up, you know, that you do.
Right. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about our emotions is just a memory of the past. And so you're bringing your past into the present. But what's so interesting, Lauren, is I sincerely believe, and I've been saying this since literally probably 6th grade, maybe even younger. I believe that every single human at their core is amazing people and a good person. I sincerely do believe that. And I know that that's debatable, but I do believe that.
Than me.
But I believe that like we all are literally doing the best we know how with our functions. When you start seeing like all the big spectrum of human behavior and all the functions, you realize everyone's responding through their survival functions. And nobody is trying to do anything bad. No one has bad intentions for the most part, right? I really don't believe that. I really do believe that. But our therapist, so we do therapy too, which has helped. We do couples therapy, independent therapy every week. That's an important part of our growth journeys. We do meditation, we do deep breathing, we do all that stuff, right? So, but one thing that our therapist was talking to us about, she was saying that there's a balance between there's in a relationship, there's 50% impact of what you say, how it affects them, and 50% intention you gotta look at. And then in society, it's only about the impact. So if I say that like Black people are the coolest race, like it doesn't matter and everybody else sucks. Like it doesn't matter what my intention was. I had the impact to society, so you can't do that, right? But in a relationship, now you can have the right to take in the intent, because 99% of the time, if not 100, your spouse is not actually trying to hurt you. They have a good intention. They're actually trying to help. It's a communication variable. So it's finding the balance of respecting both, saying, I did hurt you with these words, but my intention was this. And if you can bring in, I think, a little bit more focus on their intention in a relationship, I think it keeps the relationship a bit more lighthearted and not so much resentment.
Right.
Do you see things that way? What's your thoughts on like the difference between impact and intent in a relationship?
So I love it, and I've never even thought about it that way. Like this, I love learning from other people, and it makes perfect sense. I'm not sure if I've ever thought about that. I think a lot of that intention has to come from trust, but it really is true. And the way I think about it, and I'm not trying to change the subject, but just where it's resonating with me, is I have a phobia in relationships of complacency. You know, that people get married and they gain a whole bunch of weight, right? Or they just and they have little kids, and the kids are all the focus, and they're not the foundation, and they're like roommates, and and I'm like, how did that even happen? Like at what point did they go like to that? And I mean, I've seen it with family, you know, with friends. And I'm like,
I have that same phobia. I've always thought that. It's like, the second we get like that, we're dead. Like we can never get comfortable like that. we can't let ourselves go. This is for life. We're going on.
We've always talked about that.
Yeah, you get dressed every day, no matter what, even though we work.
Yeah, so where I don't know if I have like your intention or your impact, but I think that, I mean, those same things, even if it's not like so specific, you know, or so small, like with a certain situation, like the very first thing every single morning, and if he listens to this, he's gonna be like, I cannot believe you're talking about that again, because it was a point of contention, but now it's going to happen. The very first thing I ask Ryan every single day, what are you grateful for? What is your intention for the day? Like, we're not we haven't made coffee, we haven't worked out. I'm always like, what are you grateful for? And it's kind of like, I'm like, what are you grateful for? You know, he's like, you. I'm like, okay, what else? You know, and it's like, I want him to rattle. Like, I'm grateful for my daughter. I'm grateful for my mom. I'm grateful for but like, just to get that vibration going. And I'm always like, what are you doing?
I love it.
Your life is going to be 1% better than yesterday. And he's like, but I'm pushing him. And in the vows, he talked about that. It's like, you make me better. Like, you challenge me. And that's the growth and contribution, right? That's the growth part. I'm going to be like, okay, you run a 10-minute mile. I'm not going to push you to run an 8-minute mile, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Going there, you're going to put an 11-minute mile, right? Like, that's who I am.
Okay, I love this.
I love it.
So really quick, because we only got a couple minutes, I actually do want to go really into that really quick. So, because I'm you in the relationship where I'm pushing all the time. I'm trying to make us both the best, right?
And I value it. So like you just said that your husband like was like, I love that. I love that.
Yes.
Like, I would not be the person I am today if it wasn't for him.
But the second part of that though is that every night before we go to bed, what was the best thing that happened to you today? And not the good thing. And I want like those emotions to be going through, like when you sleep and you're resting, that you're not focused on the person that sent you a crappy email, the person that didn't call you back, the traffic you sat in, like whatever. I'm like, the best, like the absolute best part, the 11 out of 10 of that day, like, and that's how our relationship is. And the other piece about that is we set goals monthly, quarterly, annually, like as a family, as a couple. Like my vision board, like it's not just mine anymore. You know, like where we helping, where we serving, like it has to be encompassing, because otherwise you end up doing things for your own and you're not working as a unit. So that's my intention. But I think at the end of the month or the end of the year, you're like, what's the impact we had based on how much we followed through with that. Does that make sense?
So it makes so much sense. And it's so good because it goes along with what Tony Robbins says is like, you should get in the habit of saying, what's my outcome I'm looking for? And so when you're fighting or whatever, if you think like, wait, what's my outcome? Do I just want to keep fighting, or do I want to like show them that I love them?
Exactly.
And then it changes instantly, like where you start moving toward, right? So it's kind of like that intention thing. But my question is being the person you are in the relationship, where I think there's always probably one person pushing a little bit harder than the other. And sometimes I feel like it can bring out not so good parts of me, because I can feel a shift in me where now I'm starting to like try to force, right? And it just doesn't feel like it's, even though it's the good intention, the impact is getting messed up, because now I'm just like, come on, you can do this, come on. And then it starts coming in a not so empowering way. So my question for you is, have you found the right balance of trying to help your spouse? And if so, how? Because people don't want to be pushed. Nobody wants to, like, they have to be such on a high level of thinking to be very comfortable with all feedback, and like all push is like, hey, like, I'm like, I don't want to meditate right now. That's how somebody will be. And I'm like, that's how, okay, we have that. I'll be like, we got to meditate before bed. And she's like, I just want to go to sleep. And I'm like, come on, we got to meditate. And then sometimes she gets really pissed at me. So it's like, I'll meditate, fine.
I'm angry meditating.
So my question is that's been something that we're starting to get a little bit better at, but like, it's very hard because I'm very aggressive and intense by nature. I can push really hard. I like being pushed on that hard. It doesn't bother me, but I've realized for others, they can't handle it like that. So have you found the right way to motivate and inspire without them getting annoyed and getting resentful? For those on the podcast, she just shook her head. No.
That is hilarious.
It's hard, right?
I think the part that you clue into, and this is intuitive and it's care and respect, is the threshold, right? Because if you're not getting to that limit of the discomfort, you're not doing enough from the driver's standpoint, right? Think about it as a personal trainer. If you see the person that can throw tens over their shoulders easily, no problem, and you give them 8s or 12s, and they could do 15s, like they might not be ready for 20s, but you kind of have to know. So I can tell, like, if I'm pushing too hard, where the trigger, especially for the achiever, is the 3 is like, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. No matter what I do, it's never enough. That's not the path you want to go in, which is different than me saying, what's 1% more? Like, I believe in you so much. I'm going to push you because I only see greatness in you. So part of that is like, it's like a seesaw. It's not that there's a magic potion, but there's a threshold, and it's the verbiage. So if it's nagging, women, right?
Totally.
It's like, if I'm like, are you gonna get your hair cut or this? Then there's a trigger, right? Because it's like, no matter what I do, I'm not enough. Where, like, if we're working out together, or we are working on goals in the business or something, and I can drive harder because it's that communication is like, I know everything you're capable of. Like, you are not created to play small. Like, we are together. I believe in you so much. Like, it sucks right now, but it's going to be so worth it. That, where someone is like, oh my gosh, someone is believing in me more than I believe in myself, that creates greatness, is way different.
Oh, I love that.
More. So it's not that there's a magic potion, but there's a style, there's a focus, there's the intent, there's a level of communication. But you can tell when someone's getting defensive. And then also, I think, understand, where is that coming from? Like, is there pushback right now because you don't want to be doing this, right? If we're not aligning, like, I don't want to meditate. Just kidding. Pushback because they're scared, right? Like, what if I fail? What if I can't do it? Like, and you're like, okay, and you can be really encouraging. And we treat our significant others different than we would people.
100%.
The same way I treat my team, the same way I treat myself. Like,
I noticed that. Well, and you had such a great insight, because her thing is like, her automatic brain. If anybody that's watching this, 50% of us is tribe over self, 50% of us is self over tribe. And the tribe over self team, me and her definitely in tribe over self side. There's a constant tape in playing in your back of your head. I'm literally not conscious of it, but she's conscious of hers, that says, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And it's playing. And if you're not conscious of that, you're in trouble. If you're not aware that that's happening, because that's what's driving it, so much of your psyche. But what's interesting is, I think a solution for that, I think I said it right before, is saying, what's my outcome? Because if I'm pushing her, my outcome isn't to frustrate her, right? And then if I'm seeing her getting frustrated, I need to, because I think it comes from a selfish place sometimes, and I don't understand how, but I think it's coming because if I'm pushing this hard, it's like, she doesn't want to be pushed this hard. So what are you doing, right? And so I think it's like thinking like, what is my outcome? I'm gonna try this approach, and we can update you guys and let you know how it goes. But you brought so much great insight. Now I can think about it. It's like, if she's feeling like, not good enough, and then I'm pushing her hard and saying, come on, like blah, blah, blah. And like, maybe that's not the best approach. And so if I think, what's my outcome? I think that my outcome may be like, okay, you gotta be gentle here at this time, and then you'll get the outcome you want more. Right. So something.
There's a little piece to that, I think, and that's the self-awareness piece. Just like we said earlier, that if you're frustrated with your best friend because of her imperfections, and you're like, okay, is that really maybe where I'm mad at myself? Things I don't like. I think sometimes too, when we're pushing other people, like, we're projecting the expectations we put on ourselves on other people. So I've taught spin for 17 years, and like, the people that would go in there and like barely be even working, I would get so mad. I'm like, what are you doing? The time. And then like, my coworker would be like, oh my gosh, Lauren, like, don't be so hard on them. You should just be proud that they're here. Like, you don't know their story. And like,
it's great.
That's what you do. And you should just celebrate that they're here, and not, in the drive-thru or something. I'm like, oh, I'm such a terrible person. So there's that other fine line too. Like, when are you really pushing someone because you want them to be the best version of themselves? And when are you pushing someone else when maybe it's yourself that there's those things that you're unsettled with, like, it's
so good. That's so good, Lauren, because I do talk to others, especially someone that you love, you're going to talk to a bit more direct probably. And I talk to her the way I talk to myself. I like that kind of push for myself. It can push me. I'm very internally masculine. So I'll be, everybody's 50% masculine, 50% feminine. So I'm going to be more feminine on the outside, but I'm double masculine on the inside. So I can push on myself really hard. And And I noticed with her, she has to push on herself that way. It hurts more when it comes from me. And so but what you said was so good.
Yeah.
That was so money. So that was a great way to end this.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we do gotta end it, unfortunately, because we.
I want to keep going so bad.
Me too, but guys, I'm sure that you guys enjoyed this, especially if you're this far in the
This is one of my favorite calls we've done.
So we would love to have you back on to go, because we didn't even get to talk. I wanted to talk about limiting beliefs. I wanted to talk about money mindset and like how you shifted your mindset, because I had to do so much work on shifting my money mindset.
Yeah.
That was a 3-year journey nonstop for me. A lot of Grant Cardone in my ear and people like that. But Lauren, thank you so freaking much for coming on. What a fun convo.
Yeah.
You're our kind of people,
You
and
totally
we can talk
are.
forever and create some amazing conversations for people to enjoy. So any last words of wisdom you would like to leave everybody with to think about today as they go throughout their day?
You guys are so sweet, and thank you. And I am honored to be on here. I'm honored to come back. I'm glad that we got connected, and you just find like-minded people. You are in that space. And I think the last thing, and it just came up probably as you listed these other topics, in that line of like being the best version of yourself, that you are the sum of the people you surround yourself with. And if you're in a place that you feel so stuck and you're so unhappy and nothing in your life, physically, financially, spiritually, is going the way you want, sometimes you got to readdress the people that you're surrounding yourselves with. And I have a goal personally to never be the fittest person in the room, the richest person in the room, the smartest person in the room. Like, I love to be at the bottom rung because I can only go up from there. And so that would just be my advice, is when you look at yourself, and if everything you did right now, today, every decision, every habit that you were doing today, physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, with your relationships, what does your life look like in 5 or 10 years if you change nothing?
Yeah, it's great.
You're not happy with where that's going to be. You got to start to change something somewhere, even if not all at once.
Yeah, that's so good. Tom Bailey just posted a quote that said, if you're not sure where you're going to be or what you're going to be doing in the next 5 years, you're already doing it. Right. And I was like, dang, that was brutally true,
There's some people right now are like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I know, right? Right? Yeah, exactly. Babe, do you have any last words that you like to leave people with?
Man, you always put me on the spot after something awesome that someone says. I don't know.
Okay, well, I could just leave you guys with exactly what she said, is like, really think about like your behavior. If you're going to continue doing what you're doing today, where are you going to be in 5-10 years? And that can just shift if you can just change one thing. You don't have to have your whole life mapped out perfect, but if you can think of one change that you can say, actually, I would like to be a professor, like really good at tennis by then, and I want to do my 10 tournaments. Just have one goal and you'll be excited. You'll be surprised how much you light up, because progress equals happiness, according to Mr. Tony Robbins, right?
You're growing or dying.
Yeah, there's no plateaus. You're either growing or dying. So just get on that growth wagon, guys. It's addicting, and that's where you'll feel alive again.
Yeah.
Right? Anything else?
I love that. You guys are awesome. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. And
thanks so much, Lauren.
You guys live.
Yes, guys. And if anybody wants to find you, Lauren, how can they find you?
Life with Lauren Danielle on Instagram, Lauren Sims on Facebook, and my website is lifewithlaurendanielle.com.
And can you spell your last name, or Danielle or whatever? Just
DANIELLE. So Lauren, LAUREN, Danielle, DANIELLE.com.
Perfect.
Sweet, guys. We'll post a link to her page below. Please check her out. She has a YouTube channel. She has Instagram and
website,
books,
and all kinds of amazing stuff. So
dig into her. Get Off the Curb, and that's on Amazon. But it's called Get Off the Curb. And if you do that, Lauren Danielle, you'll find it right away.
Cool. Wow. If we edit this video, we'll post a picture of it right here. I'm trying. Right here. We'll post a picture of it right here. So.
There.
Yeah. Thanks, Lauren. We will shoot you a text later, but we'll talk. But thanks for coming on, guys.
Much.
And for everybody else, have an amazing rest of your day. And we can't wait to see you in the next episode. See ya.